Hello everybody, if it's your first time with us today, welcome, and if you've been here before, welcome back. Today we're going to be kicking off a new series which has to do with tactics. So what are tactics in chess, and what are the different patterns that we can use in order to win some material, gain an edge, or prevent ourselves from losing material in some games? When we talk about tactics, what we're talking about is a forced sequence of moves. It's a series of moves which, when we do something, it's going to provoke a very specific response from our opponent. For example, if we give check to the enemy king has to do something about that. He has to block, capture the attacking piece, or move away. So that's a forcing move because it causes our opponent to react to it. Now, the check isn't the only type of forcing move. We also could create other threats on the board, threaten to win a piece, things of that nature. So those are the sort of things we're talking about when it comes to tactics. Creating threats, creating very hard moments for our opponent where the opponent is going to have to react in one way or another, and perhaps we gain something from it. In the tactics we're going to be looking at today, we're going to be gaining some hard concrete material. And the first tactic we want to talk about today is the fork. So what is a fork? What does that mean? Well, we're not talking about the eating utensil here today, unfortunately, as much as I would like to get some food going here every now and again. What we're talking about when it comes to forks is an attack that is going to create multiple threats at once. So it's a move which is going to not only attack one piece, but attack two. One of the beautiful things about forks is that any one of our pieces has the potential to create a fork in the game. It can come from a pawn, come from a knight, a bishop, queen, rook, even the king can create a fork. And we're going to take a look at an example of each of those here today. So in our first position, we've got the black pieces. We're playing against white here. We've got a position where we're actually down a pawn. It looks like white has 3 pawns over here. He's got a passed pawn on the A file, and we only got 2 over here for black. So we've got to come up with some way to create some sort of counter threat, create an immediate threat if we want to win this game, or else we could be finding ourselves on the short end of the stick. So where's the fork in this position? What can black play in order to attack 2 of white's pieces at the same time? Go ahead, take a quick look and see what you can come up with. Well, if you came up with the move bishop to c3, that's it, you are correct. That bishop on c3, it's attacking the rook on a1, it's attacking the knight on d4, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is our first example of a fork with the bishop. Let's go ahead and move on to our next position. In our next position, once again, we have we've got the black pieces, in this position. And it's about equal. It looks like both sides have the same number of pawns. White has a knight where we have a bishop once again. But we're looking for a tactical way to maybe win some more material. So taking a look at this one, well, we do see that our bishop is attacking b2, but this knight is defending it, so we can't play that immediate move, bishop takes b2. But we've got another way that we can create a threat here. How can we attack 2 of white's pieces at the same time? Go ahead and pause the video if you need to think about it. And that's right, this time it's going to be with the rook. So we're lifting our rook up, rook to d4, attacking the knight and attacking the queen. Now, depending on what piece we're creating a fork with will depend on the sort of patterns we're looking for. You'll notice in this rook fork, the pieces have to be along the same file, or they could be along the same rank if they were up and down as well. So when you see 2 pieces that are placed in a line with each other along the same rank or the same file, there's the potential for there to be a fork with the rook. The same also goes for the queen, since the queen moves like both the rook and the bishop. In that last pattern, we looked at the bishop. Well, when it comes to forks with the bishop, pieces are going to need to be lined up along the same diagonal. And the bishop goes along this diagonal, right? So if there were a piece on h8, then it would be a fork between the piece on h8 and b2. So the bishop forks along the diagonal, the rook along the ranks and files. Let's go ahead and take a look at our next example. Now we're switching over to the white pieces, and here we've got a very fun one on deck for you. This is a fork maybe you've seen before, but it's a very special type of one. What's going on in this position? Well, it looks like maybe black's creating some threats, right? This queen is aiming at g2. His bishop is attacking our knight, and it looks like maybe if we move this knight, then he's going to be able to take on g2 with the queen and give us checkmate. That would not be good. However, there's a problem with this. What move does white have that can throw a wrench into all of black's plans? That's right, here we've got the deadly move, knight e7 with check, attacking the king. And what else are we attacking here? Not only the king, we're attacking the lady, the queen. We're attacking that bishop. We're even attacking the rook. This type of fork is one that we call a family fork. Family fork happens when we're attacking all of those different types of pieces in the enemy position. We're attacking the rook, the king, the queen, the bishop, all at once. It's a family affair. We've got a family fork going on here. You'll notice the knight doesn't take part in the family fork. For the black pieces, the white pieces have the knight. The reason being, if there was a black knight that was attacked as well, that black knight could just take back our white knight. So the family fork attacks everything with our knight other than the knight itself. Alright, what's going on in our next position? Well, this is a pretty early position. This has come out of the opening. If you want to take a look at the moves that led up to this, this comes from a different sort of defense. Let's say that after the standard moves, e4, e5, white tries to take the center right away with d4, and you know what? Black has the idea of, I want to keep my central pawns, I'm going to play f6. Well, this is an old trap that goes way back, and white has a way to gain a very quick advantage here. So after d takes e5 and f takes e5, now there's a deadly fork in this position that's gonna put black on the ropes from the very beginning. Go ahead, if you haven't seen it before, take a look for it. Pause the video, take a moment to think. And here it comes. We've got the big whomper, queen to a5 check. Oh no, the king's under attack. And more importantly, we're forking the pawn on e5, a fork with the queen this time, using both the diagonal and the file at the same time, the rank rather. Here black has two options. The most natural option for black would be to play g6, right? Attacking the queen, getting out of the check. Well, what's white's follow-up here? Here's the real slammer. This is what drives this trap home, why this position doesn't work for black. Queen takes e5 with check, and now, look at that, another fork, ladies and gentlemen. And black has to get out of check. He can either block with any one of his pieces, queen, bishop, or knight. He could move the king to f7. It doesn't matter. No matter what, on the next move, this rook is going to fall. Queen takes h8, and white will have a very nice, lovely game. So make sure you keep this one in mind when you're playing your openings. Anytime this f-pawn comes out, either for white or for black, potentially there might be some ideas of sneaking that slippery queen out to give check with some deadly forks to come. Alright, well, what's going on in our next position? We've got white once again, and black has a little menacing attack going toward the king side here. His queen has a nice angle toward g2. His rooks are putting a lot of pressure toward us. This knight is coming toward the king side. Maybe black has a good looking position. Maybe he'll even play a sneaky move like bishop to h3. A lot of danger in here. But white has a move that can take all the wind out of the sails here for black. So what can white do to undermine black's entire attack? How can white create a fork here? Well, let's see if you found the move. That's right, f4, and it's a pawn fork this time. So not even using one of our pieces. This time it's the pawn getting into the fun, attacking the queen on g4, attacking the knight on e5. And what is black gonna do? Well, no matter what, if black moves the knight, we're gonna take the queen. If black moves the queen, we're gonna take the knight, and it's gonna be happy days for the white pieces. Well, one last idea maybe black could try would be queen g6, right? Maybe I'm going to attack this queen. That way, if you play queen takes queen, my knight can take it, and then I don't lose a piece. Well, if that is black's try, there's one other problem. The knight on d4 is guarding our queen on c2, so we can still play f takes d5, and if queen takes queen, knight simply takes c2, and white is still up a piece. Happy days, right? So we've looked at forks that have come with the pawns, the bishop, the knights, the queen, even the rook. We'll notice in this last position with the pawn, anytime there's a pawn fork, what pattern should we be looking for? Well, you're going to have two pieces that are on the same rank as one another. They're on the 5th rank here, and they're one square apart. There's one square in between them. So anytime you see two pieces together, that same rank, one square apart, maybe take an extra look at your pawns. You might have the chance to do something sneaky, maybe sneak a little fork in there. Another thing to note about the pawns is we do have two pawns which unfortunately do not get the chance to fork, and that is our poor h-pawn and a-pawn. They can only ever attack in one direction, so our poor h and a pawns, they cannot create a fork unless they're able to capture and get to that next file over. So who do you think is last? What piece has yet to join in our forking fun here today? Well, let's take a look at this last position. We see already our king is under attack. Black has just played knight to e4 with check, and how is white going to respond? Well, we've got a lot of forks going on in this position. Let's see if we can find them all. I encourage you to go ahead, take a minute, look at this, and try to think a couple moves ahead, not only for the first fork here, but see if you can find a series of forks. There's 3 in a row here. See if you can see them all before we go through. All right, we'll get started. That first move, of course, we're going to have to move the king. We're in check from the knight. So how do we attack two pieces? King to d3. King's attacking both knights now. Look at that. And it is a very attacking piece in the end games. We need to remember that. When we get down toward the end game, not many pieces left on the board. Use those kings to attack. They're powerful. Well, black has a fork of his own up his sleeves. How's he going to respond here? Knight to f2, and look at that. It's a family fork of sorts, attacking all of the white pieces left on the board, the rook, the bishop, and the king. But of course, we get to take our first juicy piece of material. We can play king takes knight. We've got one piece. Black has to choose who to take back, so what's worth more here, the rook or the bishop? Well, we know the rook is worth more, but not only that, the rook defends the bishop. If we play knight takes bishop, then white can simply take it back with the rook. So black plays knight takes h1, and one last fork in the position. How are we going to drive home our forking fun today? Bishop f3 check. Oh no, the king's under attack and the knight's under attack. Black has to move his king any square he wants. We'll move it to a6, and now white gets to chomp up that knight and should go on to win this endgame. What a fun position. If you have any questions about forks, be sure to leave them in the comments below. Any one of our pieces can join in the fun. Always keep an eye out for these double attacks, creating some nice fun threats. And I look forward to seeing what forks you can come up with in your games to come. Best of luck.